Plot spoiler warning. This particular story analysis, I will be talking about almost the entirety of this game's plot. If you are interested in trying out and experiencing Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World and experiencing it on your own, please click off this video. In order for me to tell people why this game ticks me off so much, I have to reveal the twist and talk about the ending just a bit. You have been warned. Greetings, everybody. My name is Tommy the Keyblade Master, and welcome back to one of my story analysis videos. Now, I make it no secret that I'm not a big fan of the characters in this game. This thumbnail I created for one of my videos should tell you that. But do I still feel this way after replaying this game? Yes, sort of. The problem with this game isn't that it has no charm or that the characters aren't well written. The problem comes with the characters being annoying and then a twist that, although very well executed, does not make the main leads more likable, and then pushing the villain's sympathy to the story so far that it rings about as hollow as the live-action Maleficent movie. Anyways, the game story opens up with Cam Clark reprising his role as Kratos, narrating the opening of the story. And outside of this opening narration, Kratos only has one really small cameo scene, so excuse me if I don't count him as a returning character. Anyways, he narrates since Lloyd regenerated the world in the last game that it's fallen into hell in a handbasket. The people of Silverant don't like their new neighbors, the Tessiolans, because Silverant has been in decline for so many years that they don't even have a functioning government left, while Tessiala has been so vibrant that they have a functional superpower. So the Silveranti have created their own army to stand against the Tessiolans, called the Vanguard. And to make matters worse, the weather now has gone completely crazy. Wet lakes have dried up, deserts are now full of snow, and areas that are known for their ice are melting due to an unusual warmth. In the midst of all this, Lloyd has led the Church of Martel in a massacre of the people of Palmacosta, killing a young boy named Emil's parents, but not before he rescued a young girl named Marta.
Are you the one who saved me?
Skip forward a few months and we find Emil has settled down in the town of Loon and become a real wuss. I mean, listen to him.
Are you a dog or are you really a man? I could never say anything like that to someone. They'd only get angry at me. Wait, maybe I should have gotten angry at him.
Anyways, he's pretty much just the town's whipping boy now. A few things are happening around town though. Monsters are coming out of the dried up lake bed and people are accusing Emil of being the problem. When a man named Richter comes to the town, who is the first person who has ever really believed and respected in Emil, he goes with Richter to a cave to search for a girl named Marta. Emil finds out he's out to kill Marta, though, and decides to make a deal with a creature called Tenebrae to become a Knight of Ratatoskr to protect Marta because she seems to know something about his past. And yes, I do believe Ratatoskr is Klingon for stupid name for obvious villain. But anyways, this gives Emil magical powers, including the ability to summon monsters in battle, and a second, more darker personality that comes from Ratatoskr possessing him for when he's in battle. Let's see here, we have a young timid boy makes a pact with an ancient spirit and gets magical powers, including the ability to control monsters. He also, because he uses the spirit's power whenever he's in over his head, gets a second, more psychotic personality. This is a completely original story. Namco never heard of another story like that in any anime. On a completely different note, anybody feel like a game of Duel Monsters? Anyways, I would like to take that back, because the relationship between Emil and Ratatoskr isn't quite as good as the relationship between Yami and Yugi in Yu-Gi-Oh! While Yugi needs Yami's help in order to accomplish his goals because he lacks both the strength and the magical power, he never really lacks the will. Emil, on the other hand, pees his pants on the first signs of danger. In the Ratatoskr mode, Emil is so condescending and sociopathic along the point of being psychotic and even abusive towards the green-eyed Emil. But oh no, that's not even the end of it. But that's going to have to wait a little while until I can get to the twist that this game has towards the end. Anyways, Emil uses the new powers of the Knights of Ratatoskr in order to save Marta from Richter, but soon both are confronted by Lloyd and defeated by him. He decides to spare their lives, but he takes a gem Marta was looking for. They both return to Loon, which quickly comes under attack by a bunch of soldiers sent by Lloyd to destroy the village if Marta does not surrender to them. Emil's second personality shows up and kicks a major butt. However, all the villagers are now afraid of Emil, so the two decide to go on a journey together and collect the remaining gems called cores in order to wake up Ratatoskr. Now, if you don't understand that this is a great example of a bad idea, then you have never played a Japanese RPG before. But in the meantime, as they hunt for these magic cores, they keep on bumping into Lloyd's old friends from the first game, and they quickly find out that the people that they've hated all along are actually nice and decent people. In fact, they kind of find this out a little bit too quickly. Marta states at the beginning of the game how much she hates Colette, and for some very good reasons, due to an accident that happens in the first game that completely destroys Palma Costa. However, within a half an hour, they're best friends for life, and that's just moving it along a little bit too quickly for it to be believable. And of course, as they go along starting to collect the cores, they start to notice that the Red-Eye Emil, the one that's an absolute jerk, is starting to become a more dominant Emil, and that's going to start causing problems. They also find out who Ratatoskr is. He does indeed control monsters and the climates, but he also guards the gates of hell, making sure that they never spring open. If he is ever defeated and killed, well, all hell breaks loose quite literally. Alright, let's move on to the characters here. Now, I've already talked about everyone from the original Symphonia game and my own story analysis on that game. While the voice actors have changed, there's not a lot of new stuff going on with these characters. For the most part, they're represented fairly well here, with the exception of Lloyd, who's kind of flipped out and became a big jerk. But the rest of the characters are all people that you knew and loved from the beginning, and that hasn't changed. So let's move on to some of the newer characters. I'll talk about Emil, Marta, and two of the villains that kind of stick out because I want to talk about them. Alright, I've already said a lot about Emil. Yes, his green-eyed persona is a scaredy cat and a coward, and he's not very likable. But this isn't the first time the Tales series has took someone that is unlikable and changed them throughout the course of the game to be more heroic. Luke from Tales of the Abyss starts off as this abrasive, abusive jerk, and then by the end of the series he becomes someone who can heroically sacrifice himself to save the world. So they've already done that in Tales of the Abyss. So they try to make Emil this timid coward and turn him into someone who's more assertive and someone you can root for. And they do a decent job. The problem is, to get there, they introduce that Red-Eye personality, which is more like Luke from Tales of the Abyss, only completely psychotic. And he splits the time with this Red-Eye Emil, and he doesn't get very much character development. In fact, he stays unlikable throughout the course of the whole game. But I do have to give a hand to Johnny Young Bosch as Emil. He does a really great job with this character. He's got two very different personalities. They both sound different, but at the same time they come from the same person, and it really captures the duality of the character. So even though the character is crap, the actor they got for him does a really good job for him. It's kind of a shame that it's wasted here.
Which would you choose? Save one person with 1,000 lives, or save 1,000 with one life?
Well,
It's obvious. The one person must be sacrificed for.
Wait! That's not right! What if you were that one person? Would you still feel that way?
Like I said, he does a really knockout job of doing these two performances, but it's just a shame that it's wasted on this character. And right next to Emil, you have Marta, who's this crazy, lovesick teenage girl who's just in love with Emil. Some of the jokes about Marta being the more assertive character and being female to Emil timidness and shy out of his league male are kind of funny, but she gets annoying after a while, and this whole character concept can't really carry an entire game, and she gets old, she wears out her welcome, and she just gets annoying. She wants Emil because she believes Emil saved her back in the whole Pamukasta raid. But you learn the truth when the twist comes, and I'll get to that later. Alright, let's talk about the villains in this game. Now, there are several other villains that I'm not going to talk about, because when it comes to the Tales video games, usually there are a bunch of them. But I'll talk about the two that I think stick out the most and are worth talking about. I have to give mention to Alice. She is probably one of my favorite villains in the franchise. The Brotherhood of Gaming was right to put her on the list of top 10 Tales villains. She is just wonderfully sociopathic and psychotic. She just loves to beat the crap out of people for the sake of beating the crap out of people, all while being in this guise of this carefree little girl. It's just hard not to like her and hate her at the same time. And it makes for a really wonderful character for you to go out to beat. You definitely don't want to be traveling to Wonderland with this psychotic witch.
Iron. Now, you should know better than to talk back to me.
And then there's Richter, the game's main boss and main villain. I guess. Again, the twist and the stuff that happens after I'll get to later. But basically, Green Eye Emil likes Richter because he's the first person to ever show him true kindness and to believe in him. The Red Eye Emil seems to fly in a rage every time he's around and wants to kill him. It's also revealed that he had a best friend named Aster, who several years ago went off to look for and revive Ratatoskr the same way as Emil and Marta are doing now. However, he returned without Aster and then started out on his quest to collect the cores and to help the Vanguard conquer Tethiola. People believed he murdered Aster and is now out to destroy the world. It's hard for me to know if I really like Richter or not. As someone who's a good guy, he would have been great. As someone who was a misunderstood villain, he could have been great. But what he turns out to be after the twist is a misunderstood anti-hero, and he fails and fails hard at it. But before I can explain why he fails so hard, I have to get to the twist, which is what I'm about to do now. Alright folks, so far I haven't really spoiled any of this game. Everything I've talked about happens in the first hour or two. Or you can pretty much figure out just playing through this game because it's Japanese RPG Cliché 101. But I'm about to get into the Shyamalan twist, and it has some good and bad about it. But after this point, I'm going to be going into some major game-ruining spoilers. So if you don't want me to spoil the game, click off this video now. Alright, let's get into this. Now, as I've stated already, and it's Japanese RPG cliché, that waking up Ratatoskr is of course going to be a great example of a bad idea. You can kind of tell that from the start. Just the fact that he's called the Lord of all monsters kind of tells you that. As well as the red-eyed persona being so violent when he borrows Ratatoskr's power. So what is this twist? Well, you see, the red-eyed Ratatoskr isn't a latent personality, nor is it a personality of Ratatoskr merely possessing Emil. Oh no, the red-eyed Emil is Emil's true personality because Emil has been Ratatoskr all along. It's the green-eyed persona, the kind-hearted one, that actually turns out to be the fake. He's been using Marta and has been collecting the core so he can become powerful again, so he can destroy mankind. Why? Well, again, Japanese RPG cliché here. He's part of the He-Demon Human Haters Club. Humans destroyed his giant Carlon tree thousands of years ago, and now he wants revenge. And he started out by killing Richter's best friend, Aster, as well. Ratatoskr was then beaten to a pulp by an enraged Richter and lost most of his powers. Now, to be fair, they set this up beautifully. When Emil visits Pamukasta, which should be his hometown, no one recognizes him, and they throw in the red herring of him looking like Aster when you get to Sideback, making you wonder if that's him. Even the whole attack on Palmacosta at the beginning of the game is really good because we see the first part through the real Emil's eyes, and then we see Ratatoskr Emil approaching his parents, and they say they can't see, so they assume it's just their son, and that's where he gets this idea to become this absolute wuss, as well as look like Aster to throw Richter off and anyone else off his trail so they can't come after him. He then hides the fake core into Marta so they can go after her. The green-eyed Emil might be timid, but it's the red-eyed Ratatoskr that is the true despicable coward. Now, my problem with this twist isn't that it's not well done. Unlike Lloyd's lineage on the first game, which was just blown a long time before the twist actually happens, this one does a good job of making you realize something is wrong with Emil without revealing too many cards too soon. I've already covered the whole Emil family and the way that the opening is set up, but stuff like that happens throughout the game, and it's just perfect at understanding Emil's not who he thinks he is. Nor do I have any problems with the way that the green-eyed Emil reacts to this revelation. He's of course ashamed what his red-eyed counterpart has done, scared that the red-eyed version of him is the real him, so he goes through these emotions and then he finally finds his resolve on what he's going to do to solve the problem that faces himself and the world, and his solution's a little bit on the crazy side, but it fits the Emil that's in the story at this point. He has found his strength, he's found his courage, even if it means maybe having to put an end to himself in order to keep the world safe. He's willing to do it. So the way the green-eyed Emil reacts is okay. My problem comes with the way Richter reacts, and of course Marta. And I'll get to Marta first, because oh boy. Yeah, Marta acts exactly like he thinks she will. She's like, oh, I'm in love with both Emils. Don't do anything to the red-eye Emil. And I'm like, lady, let's see here. He's threatened to basically kill you and wipe out mankind. He's put that jewel on your forehead so both the Vanguard and the armies of Tethiala would hunt you down and kill you. And you think that's okay because he said a few kind words so he could get one of his jewels back. Ugh. Marta, you're in for an abusive relationship in the future. Just because you're in love with someone does not mean you don't get angry with them. It means you're patient with them and you're willing to listen to them, but it doesn't necessarily mean you take their bullcrap without any justification. That's what she's doing here, folks. The red-eyed one doesn't need to be punished because he said a few kind words to me. It's a good thing the green-eyed one has finally gotten a spine and decides to do what needs to be done when it comes to this whole red-eyed second personality of his, because if it was up to Marta, the world would be screwed. But Richter in some ways is worse, because you know when you find out about him, his entire troubles he causes with the world using the Vanguard to hunt down Marta, him trying to start a war between Silverant and Tethiala, doesn't really fit with the Richter that you know that is kind of this good-natured guy that's kind to Emil. Even if he does look like Aster, you do see that he's actually got this kind streak. So what would make someone want to go out and destroy the world? And is that what Richter is really after? Of course not. You see, Richter knew of this problem right from the get-go. He knew that the world faced three paths, and both of them would lead to trouble. In the first path, you do nothing and the weather goes out of control and everybody dies. Second path, you try to wake up Ratatoskr and he destroys everybody and everybody dies. But if you take the third path and try to kill Ratatoskr, well, the gates of hell open up and, well, everybody dies. So humanity's kind of screwed to begin with. So he's been looking for a fourth path, which was basically to cause trouble in the world, trick the demons into thinking that he's on their side so he can give them enough power to kill old Ratty for once and for all and to keep humanity safe from him, and then he would form another seal on the gate using his body to keep the world safe from the demons. Now, I don't have the problem if they try to kind of give you a hint about this until the end, but it just comes all at once, and it feels a lot like Maleficent in that movie. If they tried to push him to where he was just this misunderstood anti-villain where he was trying to get his friend back regardless of the cost and then gets beaten into his senses, I think I would have been happier with the ending than, oh no, he was the good guy and also more sincere about protecting people than the main character was all this time. It just makes the whole story fall flat. Now, don't get me wrong, the story does have a few redeeming points. I actually laugh at the character dynamics in this one. Emil and Marta might be annoying, but the way they play off each other is way more memorable than a certain shepherd and his whole posse was. That's for sure. Still, the twist and just the way the game handles with the villain, with him being actually far better than our main heroes, just makes it fall flat. And if you're wondering why I like Gaius, even though he was technically a good guy, but hate Richter, was the way that story was set up. Neither Jude nor Gaius had any role to play into bringing the world in the state that it was at the end of Tales of Zestiria. In fact, both of them fought to prevent it from getting to that state, but they had to have a fight over which solution would be the best. Jude's solution, which was more idealistic, everyone can get saved, but also riskier because if it fails, everyone dies, or Gaius's plan, in which most people are saved, but through a lot of pain and some will die from it, which Gaius is not exactly happy to be inflicting either. So that was an interesting character dynamic. Here, like I said, they tried to play off a KOTOR twist with you being a villain, and then there's just no real redemption, at least for the Red Eye Emil, that you really see. It's just so ham-fisted, and what there is redemption for the Red Eye Emil, you know is going to come, and it's just not good. It just falls flat. I'm sorry, I just don't like the story in this game. It does have some laughs, but that's about it. So in the end, I give the story of Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World a date with Marta out of 5. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. And I'm going to put up 2 thumbnails here. One's to subscribe to my channel. I do reviews mostly. I also do some editorials, and I also look at digital sales every week and give you my recommendations. It's one of the things I do on my channel. If you're interested, feel free to click on that subscribe button. If you want to see what I think of Tales of Symphonia as far as the gameplay goes, click on that thumbnail. It will take you to my regular review. Anyways, this is Tommy the Keyblade Master, thanking you for watching and signing out.